5 months ago, Inga was sitting in the kitchen with her 20-year-old daughter, Annika, and 18-year-old son, Bjorn. They were talking about Inga's husband, Harry. Annika asked angrily, "Mom, why are you complaining about Dad? You're acting like a spoiled teenager. Dad spoils you. You have everything you could possibly want, but it's not enough for you. What the hell else do you need?" Inga thought her daughter was right, but it didn't matter anymore, and she replied, "I want variety. He's too easygoing and never stands up for himself. I want him to be tougher. I want him to get angry sometimes." Bjorn interrupted her. "Really? My father used to get angry with me, and I don't want to repeat that experience." He shuddered at the memory. Ing continued, "I have a plan. I'll poke and prod and insult your father until he loses his temper and gets angry with me. Then, when he calms down, I'll make it up to him and tell him how much I love him. But I need your help." Annika looked at her mother suspiciously. "I don't like this idea. If you loved Dad, you wouldn't put him through this. Explain what you want us to do." Bjorn intervened. "No, no, no. I'm not getting involved in this. I went too far with my father once, and I still regret it. It hurt us both, and it took a year before he trusted me again. I'm warning you, Mom, this won't work. The problem with Dad is that he doesn't warn you when he's reached his limit. He just explodes. Please, Mom, don't do this." Inga didn't listen and laid out her plan. When she was finished, she looked at Annika and asked, "What do you think? I won't push Harry to the limit, but I need him to talk to me." Annika replied wearily, "I still don't like it. Like Bjorn, I'm afraid it will drive us apart." She fell silent and shook her head. "Mom, I'll help you, but only to a certain extent. Just know that if things turn out the way Bjorn predicted, I won't support you. I'll support Dad." "Fair warning," Inga agreed. "What about you, Bjorn?" "No way. You heard me. No way in hell. And if I see my father suffering, I'll tell him everything." Ing tried to dissuade Bjorn, but he wouldn't budge the next morning. Harry, where's my coffee? I asked for coffee," Inga shouted. Harry froze. What's going on, he thought. He came out of the kitchen with the coffee in his hands. He put it in front of his wife and started to leave without saying a word. "Well?" Inga asked. "Well, what? Why did you take so long?" "I don't know how to make coffee. You know, freshly brewed coffee. It takes time." "Don't talk to me like that." Harry waved his hand. Inga's attacks continued until the end of the vacation. Bjorn tried to talk to his father. He could see that Harry was exhausted, but Harry calmly replied that it was between him and Inga. He would sort it out himself. Present day. The car with the trailer sped south on the A2 highway. The tension in the car was palpable. For Harry, it was one of the worst days of his life. That morning, while they were loading the trailer, Inga had treated him so badly that Harry had almost lost his temper. Now Harry concentrated on driving to keep his anger in check. He decided he would confront Inga when they got to their destination. Inga sensed that Harry was on the verge of exploding. She didn't dare say a word. It was very difficult because she always had something to say about his driving. After 3 hours of driving, they arrived at their destination and set up camp without saying a word. With almost 24 years of experience, it was fairly easy, and Inga couldn't blame Harry. They ate dinner in silence, and Harry went for a walk to relax and recharge. 3 hours later, he returned. Harry felt refreshed, and his mood had improved considerably. Inga was not in the van, so he went to look for her. He found her at the other end of the campground in the company of other tourists who were drinking wine. He approached her and said, "Honey, shall we go have dinner?" Inga looked up and replied, "Can't you see I'm in good company? So kindly leave me alone." The others grinned, and Harry turned pale as a sheet. He looked up again and saw Inga turn and put her hand on one of the men's hips. He muttered, "As you wish, ma'am," and turned toward the van. He'd had enough. Tomorrow, he would meet with Inga and leave her. After getting ready, he took out his wallet, got into his car, and drove to the village. At the ATM, he withdrew as much money as he could at one time. He did the same with his credit card, then found another bank and opened a new account. Back in the van, he called his boss, explained the situation, and gave him his new bank account details. "I need to take some time off, too." "You can take the whole period off if you need to. With overtime, that's almost 3 months. When it's over, you can apply for family leave if the situation hasn't changed." "Thanks, I'll call you back." At 1 o'clock in the morning, Inga returned drunk, reeking of betrayal and muttering something incoherently. Harry, come here. I need you, Harry replied through clenched teeth. No way. Who knows what happened there tonight? Go to hell. His voice was filled with rage. Inga was too far away to notice Harry's state. She collapsed on the bed fully clothed and immediately passed out. The next morning, Inga woke up feeling nauseous, hungover, and with a terrible headache. She squeaked, Harry? When she got no answer, she got out of bed and was immediately rewarded with a bout of vomiting. Still waiting for Harry to answer, she crawled out into the street. Harry was sitting in the morning sun, eating breakfast, coffee, croissants from the bakery, and orange juice on the table in front of him. He grinned at the miserable woman and said with a heavy laugh in his voice, Well, 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 look what the cat brought. You're not feeling very well, are you? Inga wanted to say something, but her voice wouldn't obey her. Harry continued relentlessly. Better shut your filthy mouth and listen carefully. Here are the car documents, keys, and trailer documents. What? Why? Inga muttered. Harry almost shouted, Shut your stinking mouth while I'm talking. Inga recoiled. Harry had never spoken to her like that, let alone shouted. Harry continued. The bank cards are here. The credit cards are all yours. I'm leaving. Inga felt so bad that she could barely contain herself, but she managed to ask, When will you be back? We need to talk. Harry was overcome by an icy calm. That's not the question, he replied. The question should be, will you come back? And the answer is no, I won't. This is goodbye. With that, he slung his backpack over his shoulders. Inga panicked. No, no, no. This wasn't supposed to happen, she cried. And then she started to feel nauseous again. Harry waited, showing no compassion. Finally, Inga whispered desperately, I love you. I just wanted you to be a man and stand up for yourself. I wanted you to be angry with me. Harry looked at Inga with disbelief in his eyes. You did a great job of that. I'm angry with you. I'm so angry that there are no words to describe it. You better check the sheets when I leave. They look exactly the same as they did on our wedding day, with stains. I don't think the stains will come out. When you came home yesterday, you smelled like a dirty brothel. Today, I want to have a serious talk with you about the state of our marriage as a result of your behavior over the last few months. I've been wondering whether I want to stay married to you, but your behavior yesterday made me change my mind. You made my decision very easy yesterday. You should get tested for STDs. I'm almost certain they'll find something. Harry's last words pierced the fog in Inga's head and cut into her consciousness. So, my dear, I'm leaving, as you asked. With these words, Harry left. The physical discomfort and emotional pressure became unbearable for Inga. Weeping inconsolably, she entered the smelly van and fell onto the bed. Harry left the campsite and headed for the village. He thought to himself, leaving was the easy way out. What now? What am I going to do and where am I going to go? He just walked, feeling sad and depressed. Early in the evening, Harry found himself a little north of Hallsberg. He stopped at a guest house. Alone in his room, he lost consciousness. He realized the gravity of the situation, and thoughts of the end of his marriage clouded his mind. Harry could tolerate Inga's insults, but her infidelity was the last straw. At that moment, Inga woke up again. Her head didn't hurt as much, but her mouth still tasted like rotten goat meat. She carefully tried to stand up. She was still unsteady, but her stomach felt better. A foul smell hit her nose, and she ran outside. Before entering, she stepped in a dried puddle of vomit and a meter further in another. When she had dragged herself inside that morning, her clothes had been dragging through the mud. Breathing through her mouth, she entered the house, gathered her toiletries, a towel, a toothbrush, and some clean clothes, and then headed for the shower. When the water was warm, she took off her clothes, feeling dirty. She tried to remember what had happened the night before and the day before, but her memories were, to put it mildly, fragmentary. However, what Inga saw was very bad news for her marriage. Finally, it dawned on her that her husband had noticed her condition and drawn his own conclusions. Harry had always been a gentle and patient man. He had endured her insults and humiliation out of love for her. If it hadn't been for her behavior in recent months, she might have had a small chance of saving her marriage after her affair, she thought. This was too much. She went into the shower and cried. Harry sat in his room. After crying, he did what made him so valuable to his employer. He analyzed and found solutions to problems that seemed unsolvable. Now he had to apply those talents to himself. He needed to end the marriage and he had to act. The divorce should have been relatively straightforward. They both had roughly the same income, but Harry needed somewhere to live, preferably close to work. He would never set foot in their house again. He called his boss and explained that the situation had deteriorated to the point where he needed a place to live. Harry was told that the company had several options and would give him an answer tomorrow. In the meantime, he also went looking for an apartment. Inga washed and washed, but still felt dirty and finally gave up. After drying off, she got dressed and returned to the van, where she recoiled from the stench. Stunned, she didn't know what to do. It would be unwise to call the children after such a failure, so instead she began cleaning up under the awning, not wanting to meet their gaze just yet. After a long rant, the stench disappeared, and she sat down in front of the van, trying to resist the coffee and cookies. She remembered yesterday's events and was shocked by her behavior. Her memories told her that this was exactly what had happened. Stunned, she tried to collect her thoughts and decide what to do when the phone rang. Annika? Mom, I can't get through to Dad. Why aren't you answering the phone? What's going on? We had a fight. You finally crossed the line, huh? Where's Dad? I want to talk to him. I don't know where Harry is. He threw my car keys, documents, and bank cards in my face and left, taking my backpack with him. What did you say to Dad to make him leave like that? You know what he's like when he's really angry. Mom, you're in big trouble. As if I didn't know. I don't think he'll ever come back to me. Something happened that Harry will never forgive. I can only hope that the divorce will be amicable. Divorce? Mom, what have you done that you think there's no chance of reconciliation? Inga gathered her courage and told the whole story as she remembered it, including Harry's mockery about good company. Her voice trembled when she told her daughter how she had told him to get out. Annika gasped. Mom, no. You did everything you could to get your way, didn't you? I'll keep trying to get in touch with Dad and talk to him. I won't interfere. You're on your own. I warned you from the beginning. But you had to do it. And you have to tell Bjorn yourself. He'll be furious, and I'm not going to be your messenger. For now, you have 2 weeks in the van to sort out your problems, including how to get home, since you don't know how to drive, so you'll have to find someone else. I'm not coming to help you. Bye? Annika hung up and immediately called her father. This time the line was busy. She sighed and said to herself, Good news. Dad didn't crawl under a rock. Annika waited 10 minutes and tried again. Hi, Ani. How's my girl? Her father's voice sounded familiar, but he seemed very tense. I don't know, Dad. I heard you left Mom. Are we still a family? Harry snorted and growled. I assume you've already talked to your mother. So she's regained consciousness? And more importantly, did she tell you everything, including the dirty details? Wait. Before you answer that question, I'll answer no. As far as I'm concerned, your mother left me, and it started about 6 months ago. Yesterday, she literally told me to get out in front of her new friends. I agreed, and now, to my regret, I have to say that we are no longer a family. My employer just called me. They found me an apartment and a very good lawyer. I'm on my way home. I'm going to rent a truck and move. As soon as I know my new address, I'll let you know. Annika shuddered inwardly. How angry her father was. She had never heard him be so blunt and decisive. He used to love my mother very much. Now he seemed to hate her with all his heart. She said as calmly as she could, Okay, Dad, I understand. One last question. Who will tell my little brother? Harry thought for a few seconds before answering. When you talk to him, just tell him we broke up. Please don't tell him the whole story. It will overwhelm him, and I don't know how he'll react. I told your mother she should tell you both the whole story. They parted, and Annika cried quietly. Harry, on the other hand, was even more determined to see things through. He could handle the teasing and was man enough to fight back if things got too far. However, betrayal was completely unacceptable to him. He thought back to his youth and his first love. Harry had been deeply in love. They had already planned their whole life together when she returned from vacation with her parents and told him she had fallen in love with a local boy. He forgave her, and everything was fine until the next vacation. He was devastated when he found photos of her kissing another local talent. When he asked her about it, she admitted that she had cheated on him again. Harry shook his head in disgust, spat at her feet, and walked away. Despite her pleas, he never looked back. Never again, he thought, never again. Better the pain of a breakup than the humiliation of being cheated on by a woman. Even when her 4 parents supported her, begging him to show mercy once more, He told the girl to leave and enjoy herself. Thinking back on it, he realized he would never be part of such a scene again. Harry packed his backpack and headed for the bus stop. The next day, Harry sat in his house, he no longer called it home, and drank coffee. In an hour, he had a meeting with CEO Gerard Dirksen and his lawyer. He had spent a sleepless night gathering the things he thought he couldn't do without and family heirlooms, such as a 250-year-old clock. The CDs, books, and other items were already packed, and he was ready to go. But he didn't know what to expect, so he put off renting a van. Knowing Inga, he guessed she wouldn't be home in the morning, so he left for the office at the appointed time. Upon arrival, he was directed to the CEO's office where his boss was waiting for him. "Harry, have a seat. Coffee will be brought in shortly. It seems you may need it." "Did you get any sleep?" Gerard shook his head, very concerned when he asked Harry this question, as Harry was one of his best and most valued employees. The clients loved him too. When Harry shook his head, Gerard continued, "Harry, let me introduce you to Mrs. Ella Hairway. She will help you with your divorce. I understand you still want a divorce, correct?" Harry replied in a trembling voice, "Yes, of course, as soon as possible." Seeing the expression on the lawyer's face, he paused. "Please understand, I'm very tired and on the verge of a breakdown. I apologize in advance, but can the divorce wait until I've had a chance to rest a little?" Gerard nodded. "Harry, I just wanted to introduce you so you could work on this part together." She nodded too, and they exchanged phone numbers before the lawyer left. When they were alone, Gerard said quietly, "Okay, enough formalities. I'm Gerard and you're Harry. I've been in a similar situation myself, and I don't want one of my best people to get into trouble, so I'm trying to help. Now, down to business. The company has two houses for you to choose from. One is in the city and the other is in the suburbs. The latter is close to public transportation and a few minutes away by bike." Harry didn't hesitate. "Please, the one in the suburbs. I don't like living in the city anymore. It's too noisy and busy." Gerard sighed happily. He hoped Harry would choose that apartment. The city apartment was smaller, but it could be rented out for much more money. "All right," he said. "Here are the keys and the address. The rent is $750 a month, which will be deducted from your salary. You can take Harold and the company truck to move your things out of the old house. He's waiting outside." "Thanks, Gerard." "You're welcome, Harry. But there's one more condition. I don't want to see you here until you've talked to Mrs. Hervey. If you need any help, you know where to find me." Harry realized he was being dismissed, stood up, and left the office to find Harold. First, they arrived at Harry's new apartment and looked around. It was on the third floor of a 5-story building with no elevator. The apartment consisted of a living room, 2 bedrooms, a bathroom with a shower, and a toilet. Next to the entrance was a toilet and a large balcony overlooking a park with a large pond. The apartment was sparsely furnished with only a single bed. Harry said, "Okay, Harold. I see I don't need many things from the old house. This should be quick. Let's go." 2 hours later, the truck drove away from Harry's old house. He took everything he might need with him, including bedding and personal belongings. Before leaving, he wrote a short letter to Inga, informing her that she could expect a letter from his lawyer shortly. Inga was furious. Harry had left her at the campsite with the car and trailer, so getting them home was another problem. The first thing she had to do was find Harry, beg and grovel, hoping he would show mercy. When she finally began to function normally, she set out to find a bus stop. She had never gotten a driver's license in the Netherlands because she had struggled to pass her driving test. And with public transportation and Harry driving her around town, she had never needed one. However, she now realized that she was stuck and dependent on the bus schedule. At the bus stop, she looked at the schedule and realized with horror that she had missed the last bus. The next one wasn't until 7 o'clock the next morning. Inga returned to the camp and tried to find those who had drunk themselves into unconsciousness. They were nowhere to be found, so she turned to the camp director, who told her that they had left early in the morning after the party. She tried to call Annika and Bjorn, but neither answered, so she returned to the van. In complete despair, with tears in her eyes, she began to tidy herself up, wishing it was the biggest mess she had ever had to clean up. The next morning, after a very restless night, Inga was walking to the bus that left at 7, but then the camp manager noticed her. "Are you going to the bus? The first one at 7 is only for locals. There's no change on the first bus, but there is on the second one, which leaves in an hour." "Thank you," said Inga. With a tremor in her heart, she decided to continue on her way so as not to miss the next train. After a long time, Inga finally reached the street where they lived. Everything looked as peaceful as before, and she hoped that the storm had subsided and that Harry was ready to forgive her. A truck drove by, snapping her out of her reverie, but then silence fell again. The silence seemed even more disturbing as she walked down the path to the front door. She took her keys, opened the door, and called out, "Harry," but only an ominous silence answered her. She entered the living room and the first thing she saw was that the old clock was gone. Her stomach clenched and she screamed, "No, no, no, this can't be. This is happening too fast. We should have talked first. You can't just leave like this." Now Inga realized what was missing when she entered the house. The ticking of the clock. It was as if the soul had been ripped out of the house. Shaking her head, she rushed to check the bedroom and bathroom, but found that all of Harry's personal belongings were gone, even his books and CDs. Inga sank into a chair, feeling that none of this was real. She had expected Harry to be home so she could vent her frustration and anger, and then she would show him how sorry she was, and they would make up. But things didn't turn out the way she had imagined. It was much worse. She never expected him to ignore her and leave. Harry always told Annika and Bjorn, "What's worse, when someone is angry with you or when someone acts as if you no longer exist? Someone who is angry with you still has feelings for you, but if you ignore someone..." The last incident occurred when Harry caught Bjorn buying strange things for a party. Harry didn't even punish Bjorn. He just said, "We've talked about this many times. If you want to ruin your life, that's your decision. I don't want anything to do with it. You have a month to find a job and get out of this house." Inga trembled at the memories and the sudden realization that Harry was now treating her exactly the same way. Instead of getting angry with her, he was cutting her out of his life, ignoring her as if she didn't exist. But the worst thing was that she was to blame for it. She walked uncertainly into the kitchen, opened the refrigerator to get something to drink to calm her nerves, but slammed it shut. "No. What I drank last night is at least partly to blame for this situation." Inga went to the stove to make some tea, but then she saw the envelope Harry had left. She tore it open and read the short note. "Inga, I've been humiliated enough. This marriage is over. I've hired a lawyer. I advise you to do the same." Inga exclaimed loudly. "He didn't even sign it. But I'm not going to give up so easily now that he's finally shown he has balls. If I don't get them, no one will." She threw the kettle across the kitchen, followed by the cup. Both shattered on the tiles. Almost a year passed. Harry found a steady rhythm. Sleep, work, eat, repeat, sleep, work, eat, repeat. When he came home, he found the divorce papers in the mail. The divorce itself did not go smoothly. Inga tried every trick in the book to get Harry to talk to her. He consistently rejected all attempts. Financially, things were much simpler. When Harry started the divorce proceedings, their incomes were roughly equal, including retirement savings. The house was no longer mortgaged, and a real estate agent valued it at over $500,000. Harry led a modest lifestyle, to say the least. He worked 12 hours a day, which allowed his business to thrive. He had received several exceptionally high bonuses, so he needed to find a place to invest his money before the tax authorities demanded an excessive amount. Harry decided to look for a house with a garden where he could tinker with his motorcycle and where there was a library. He imagined a house filled with books, but he also wanted a high-end stereo system and music collection, as well as comfortable armchairs and a sofa. He also wanted a large, well-equipped kitchen and 3 bedrooms. With these considerations in mind, Harry turned to the internet and his colleagues at work to find a suitable real estate agent. Once he found a reliable agent he liked, he emailed him to arrange a meeting. When everything was ready, he decided to celebrate this sad event and bought a ticket to Johannes Brahms's German Requiem. Harry thought it was the right choice. In the evening, after the concert, he found himself in a pub near the concert hall, the beautiful music still ringing in his ears. He was standing there with a glass of very good Dutch gin when he heard a voice say, "Harry? Harry Vandergoes, is that you?" He turned around and saw a tall woman staring at him intently. "Excuse me, miss. You've put me in an awkward position. Do we know each other?" Harry asked politely. The woman laughed. "Now, I should be disappointed you've put me in an awkward position. But no, not really. We went to the same school. I was a year older and hung out with the popular kids. I really liked you because you were so reserved and gentle, but at the time I didn't want to talk to you. I'm Evelina Gedhardt. You can call me Eva." Harry tried to remember that time, but nothing came to mind. He smiled and replied, I should remember a beautiful woman like you, but nothing comes to mind. I hope you'll accept my sincere apologies. Can I make it up to you by offering you a drink? Evelina replied, I'm sorry, but I have a date. A rather unfortunate one, I might add. Maybe we can have a drink some other time. Can I have your phone number? A man appeared behind Evelina and growled, Baby, don't be a wimp. This is our date, and you'll have a good time with a real man. Harry wrote his number on a piece of paper, folded it, and handed it to Evelina. The man approached her and ordered Evelina to give him the piece of paper. You're my girlfriend, and I don't want you sneaking around with another man, even if he is weak. Evelina replied angrily, You're drunk. I'm definitely not your girlfriend. I agreed to this date because you helped me when my car broke down. But this was the first and last date. If you really want to call this disaster a date, I'll just call an Uber because you're not in any condition to drive, and I don't want to go anywhere with you. Well, you little chicken, I'll show you, the man growled, raising his hand to hit Evelina, but Harry was quicker and struck him hard in the solar plexus with his knee. The man cried out in surprise and staggered backward. Harry supported him so he wouldn't fall, and the man clenched his fingers around Harry's arm. Turning to the writhing man, he said quietly, This weakling will beat you half to death if you don't behave yourself. So here's what we're going to do. You pay for the drinks and leave quietly. I'll pay for the Uber. Now nod if you agree. The man nodded and Harry let him go. The man turned, his face pale with pain, paid, and left without saying a word. When he was gone, Harry called an Uber for Evelina, who had been watching the whole thing with wide eyes. That's what I remember from school, she said. Even the biggest bullies didn't dare touch you or your friends. You always helped people, taught them, even the kids in our class, but you did things your own way with everyone else. How could you do that to that man? He's much bigger than you. Harry replied quietly, I've been practicing Krav Maga since I was 7 because I had serious anger issues. Krav Maga is a way to channel your energy and build self-confidence so that when you need to, you can go back to your problems knowing that you can handle them. I also learned self-control and discipline. A minute later, the Uber arrived. Harry paid the driver and wished Evelina a good night. The next day, Harry's cell phone rang. He looked at it and saw an unfamiliar number. Harry Vandergoose, how can I help you? Evelina replied, Good afternoon, Harry. I have the day off tomorrow. I wanted to ask if you had any plans for tomorrow? Actually, yes. I'm going to look at some houses with a real estate agent. Oh, was all Evelina heard. Harry realized she was disappointed. Not wanting to lose the interest of this beautiful and interesting woman, he quickly made a decision. But surely a member of the opposite sex would be able to help me. They're much more practical. Otherwise, I'd end up buying a cave. Maybe you could help me. Evelyn's quick and enthusiastic response left no doubt that she wanted Harry to help her. Oh yes, I'd love to. Do you know what you'd like? Harry had an idea. Why don't we talk about it over dinner? You choose. I'll cook for you. Or you can tell me which restaurant you'd like to go to. Evelina laughed and asked, Can you cook? Now it was Harry's turn to laugh. When I cook dinner, there are never any complaints or leftovers. Oh, and before you start saying it's because the portions are small, no, I don't cook small portions. Really? I thought you were a bachelor who ate out every day. Before Harry could answer, Evelina continued, So you cook for yourself? Every day? Yes, Harry replied. I've become something of a recluse lately. Yesterday I went to a concert and had a drink for the first time in a year. Oh my, how did that happen? It's a story I can't talk about yet because it's too painful. All I can say is that on the night I met you, I received notification that my marriage was officially and legally dissolved. I felt like I had to celebrate. A requiem. She paused, then said, Oh, I'm so sorry. In that case, I think I'll take a chance and try your cooking, Harry. Where and when would you like to meet me? Harry gave Evelyn his address and she said she would be there around 6. At 5 minutes past 6 in the evening, Evelina stood in front of Harry's door and pondered. There was nothing to make her nervous, but she had to be there. And sweating with excitement, she rang the doorbell. Harry opened the door almost immediately. Ah, there you are. My God, you look beautiful. You look gorgeous. Evelina was wearing a dress that hugged her figure and emphasized her long, slender legs. Her long, dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and light makeup accentuated her hazel eyes. Evelina blushed like a schoolgirl at Harry's sincere compliment and replied with a smile, "Well, you don't look too bad for a chef yourself, but thank you. It's been a long time since anyone complimented me. Can I come in? Where are my manners? Of course. The lasagna is in the oven and will be ready in about half an hour. I have melon and parma ham for an appetizer. What would you like to drink?" Evelina had a wonderful evening, although she drank a little more than she should have. The wine was strong Italian and went well with the lasagna, but after the third glass she felt a little dizzy. For dessert, they served blue al ramandolo, an Italian blue cheese, and port wine, which made her feel even worse. At the end of the evening, Harry looked at her and said quietly, "I think I'll drive you home. You've had too much to drink." Evelina, already quite relaxed, replied, "Harry, I'd rather spend the night with you." When she realized what she had said, she blushed so deeply that her skin turned red all the way down to her neckline. Harry smiled with pleasure. "I wouldn't want anything better, Evelina, but I have a very strict rule. I don't sleep with women who have had too much to drink. And I don't mean alcohol. I stuck to this rule until I got married, and my divorce only reinforced it. Let's sleep on it and see what happens tomorrow." Half an hour later, they were standing in front of Evelina's house. Evelina turned, looked at her legs, and whispered shyly, "I know you don't think I'm pretty enough to sleep with, but can I have a kiss?" Stunned, Harry took Evelina's face in his hands, made her look at him, and said, "Darling Evie, how can you think I don't find you beautiful? Believe me, I think you're a gorgeous woman, and I want to make love to you very much." He paused to let her take in his words. "But Evie, not when you're half drunk. I don't want you to do something you'll regret and ruin what we have. To be honest, I'm in love with you, and I don't want you to be just a one-night stand." When he asked, "Do you understand me?" That was a promise. "Tonight would be fantastic, but we've only known each other for a few hours. I'm falling in love with you, so I want things to happen gradually. So, do you still want to go with me tomorrow to look at the apartment? Or are you too disappointed in me today?" Evelina raised her head and looked at Harry. "Disappointed in you? You're the first man since my divorce who didn't jump into bed with me. Not because I let you, but because you openly and honestly explained why. I'm not that easy. You know, I like you too. And if this is any indication of what's to come, I'm happy to wait. It's worth it. See you tomorrow. I'll make breakfast, okay?" The next morning, around 8, it was Harry's turn to be nervous. He knocked on the door, and it opened almost immediately. He took a deep breath and said, "My God, woman, I need to focus on the house today. The way you look is making that completely impossible." "What an outfit." Evelyn melted into his arms and giggled, "Yes, Harry, I've fallen in love with you too, and I'll wait just like you said. This is only the beginning." After a delicious breakfast, Evelina asked Harry to wait while she changed into something more appropriate for house hunting. When she returned, she was dressed modestly in a sweater, jeans, and sneakers. "Shall we go?" She smiled and took his hand. When they met, the real estate agent looked very businesslike but kept his eyes on Evelina. He told them, "I have 4 houses, one in the city, 2 in the suburbs, and 1 in a small village nearby. But they're not finalized yet." Harry immediately replied, "Skip the one in the city. I clearly said I want one with a garden." While the agent was driving them to the houses, one of the houses in the suburbs was also rejected, and they drove to another one. On the way, Harry couldn't shake the feeling that he had seen this man before. The agent chatted with Evelina, praising the house, the garden, and the surroundings, ignoring Harry, his client. Feeling uncomfortable, Harry checked the location of the neighborhood on Google Maps and found that it was very close, almost too close to the airport. After all, it was not a quiet area, with planes flying overhead most of the day. Listening closely, he heard one fly overhead. Listening, he checked other houses that had recently been sold and their prices. Twice as much, he thought. Other houses had been sold for significantly less than this one. It must be a very good house for the price. Or Harry watched Evelyn and the agent's conversation closely and noticed that the latter was slyly trying to seduce Evelyn just as he had tried to deceive him. The house itself was nothing special to be worth so much, just one of 13 dozen, almost an exact copy of many others. Realizing this, Harry frowned and muttered quietly to himself before going on the offensive. "Tell me, do you want someone else's girlfriend too?" The agent looked at Harry in surprise. "What do you mean?" Harry replied with obvious sarcasm in his voice. Well, you're trying to cheat me out of $100,000 and you're trying to seduce my girlfriend. Now get off her. I'm leaving and I'm going to file a complaint with your agency. He turned to Evelina. I think we're done here. Evelyn, realizing the agent's intentions, was more than surprised by Harry's reaction and, as soon as he left, asked him what was going on. First of all, he doesn't treat you with the respect you deserve. Second, he tried to cheat me out of $100,000 for the house. And I know him from somewhere, but I can't remember where or why. Now, I don't trust him. So I'm going to call a taxi to take us back, and we'll look at the last house ourselves when we get the keys from the agency. After a brief conversation at the real estate agency, they received the keys to the last house. In the car on the way to firm, Evelina asked, Harry, am I your girlfriend? Harry smiled dreamily and replied, officially, no. But that guy was hitting on you, and along with the horribly overpriced house, he pissed me off. Plus, I know that face from somewhere, but I don't know where. Now, to give you a complete and honest answer to your question. Yes, I was a little jealous, and I really want you to be my girlfriend. So, Evelina, I know we only met a few days ago, but it feels like months. Will you be my girlfriend? Evelina looked at Harry in surprise, trying to figure out if he was joking or not, but he looked completely serious. She asked, You're not joking, Harry? I just got out of a very abusive marriage and can't go through that again. Please don't ask me if you're not serious. Harry smiled uncertainly and replied, I'm as serious as a heart attack. Harry, I already told you that I liked you back in school, and in this short time you've only confirmed my impression of you. Yes, I'd love to be your girlfriend. The house in Formont was the one, but it had problems. So Harry called in an expert to check how sturdy it was and a contractor to find out how much a new roof and other repairs would cost. Harry had other ideas, but they would have to wait. Considering the dilapidated condition of the house, it was well within Harry's budget, but because of how the first real estate agent had treated him, Harry offered $50,000 less than the asking price. He said to Evelyn, Now we'll wait. It's late. Shall we have dinner? 3 weeks later, after some tough bargaining, Harry could call himself the owner of a house in Formont. The owner was happy. Harry was happy. Only the real estate agency was far from thrilled. The owner got $10,000 more than he had agreed, and Harry paid almost $40,000 less than the agency had listed the house for, so they lost a lot of commission. The matter came to a head when Harry's company offered him a new contract. It was much better than the previous one and was for 3 years, so Harry decided to celebrate. Harry and Evelina were celebrating at a restaurant when Evelina asked, Harry, your company also trades stocks, right? Yes. Why do you ask? When I divorced my ex-husband, he was quite wealthy, but he tried to hide it. His twin brother knew about it and decided that after everything I had been through, it wasn't fair, so he told the judge. I'm doing well now, but my ex is still trying to get those shares. I need to transfer them. Harry replied that he would look into it in the morning. Later that evening, he asked about another matter that was on his mind. Isn't it time you met Annika and Bjorn? If you want to, of course. Evelina happily replied that she would love to and that it was a big step for her. Harry said he would invite them over for dinner so they could get to know each other better. 2 weeks later, the four of them sat in a very nice Turkish restaurant at a table laden with food, the appetizing aromas wafting to their noses and making their mouths water. After some initial awkwardness, Bjorn and especially Annika got along very well with Evelina. They joked with her and teased her father when, to their surprise, Inga appeared at the table. Harry shuddered. Inga, you weren't invited. What do you want? Inga grinned. I wanted to see your new whore. Is she your 4th or 5th? And she left. Harry looked around and asked aloud, What is she talking about? How did she know we were here? Annika replied, We don't know, Dad. Maybe she was following one of us. A few minutes later, Evelina apologized and went to the bathroom while Harry and his children discussed Inga's sudden appearance and her remark. When asked, Harry replied, Evelina is the first and only woman I've been in a relationship with since my divorce, and we only met on the evening of the day the divorce was finalized, a year after it began. He was about to say something else, but then Evelina returned, red-faced and very angry. How could you? How could you treat that poor woman like that? She exclaimed, almost shouting. I never want to see you again. Evelina ran out of the restaurant under the stares of everyone present. Inga returned with a smirk on her face. Well, she said, now that it's over, we need to talk. Harry stood with a murderous expression on his face and said through clenched teeth, "If we were the last people on Earth, I'd rather kill myself than talk to you. Go to hell." Harry stared at Inga, but she could see that he was ignoring her and addressing the children. "I'll pay for dinner, and then I'll find Evelina to find out what the hell just happened." He left, and Inga was about to follow him, but Annika grabbed her arm. Angry, Inga turned to her daughter, then stared intently in the direction where Harry had disappeared. Annika said, in a voice trembling with anger, "Inga, how could you? You're not my mother anymore. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I don't want to see you anymore. Delete my number and forget my address. You're dead to me, understand? Dead. Now get out." Bjorn was much less eloquent. "I agree. Same for me." And in the same vein, he added, "Let's go, Annika. The air at this table is polluted." They left, leaving Inga standing there in bewilderment when the restaurant owner appeared beside her. He whispered, "Madam, because of you, I've lost a very good customer. Please leave before something bad happens." Inga turned to him. "Are you threatening me?" The owner replied, "No, madam, but my security guard will remove you by force if necessary." A few minutes later, Inga found herself on the street without the security guard's help. She was furious with Harry. How dare he leave me like that? And then leave without waiting for an answer? She was boiling with rage, thinking over everything that had happened and coming to the conclusion that she would not find him tonight. The next morning, Harry tried to contact Evelina, but she refused to have anything to do with him. Even his letter was returned unopened a few days after it was sent. Harry was devastated and returned to his routine of sleep, work, eat, repeat. When Evelina suddenly disappeared from his life, all thoughts of communication vanished, and in the days that followed, he stopped seeing anyone except his children and those who were at work when necessary. A couple of weeks after the events at the restaurant, Harry was summoned to the office of Gerard Dirksen, the company's CEO. A few seconds later, lawyer Ella Hervier entered. Gerard's usual friendliness disappeared when he asked, "Mr. Vandergoose, are you familiar with the clause in your contract prohibiting friendly relations?" Surprised, Harry replied, "Yes, of course. Why do you ask?" The lawyer joined the conversation. "Because we have evidence that you are in a friendly relationship with one of our clients, Mrs. Evelyn Gedhart. Do you have anything to say about this?" Harry was stunned. He stammered, "Not really. I knew Mrs. Gedhart before she became our client." Mrs. Hervier immediately cut him off. "You do know that this is grounds for dismissal, don't you? The company can't afford a scandal if the relationship goes sour. This conversation also means that your contract is terminated. Human Resources will inform you of the procedure. However, we will need your laptop and phone." Harry's blood pressure shot up. He counted to 10 and raised his head again, but his blood pressure still dropped to 0. The angrier Harry became, the more softly and articulately he spoke to his opponents. Now he was almost whispering, "You've got it all wrong. Mrs. Gedhart and I were friends before she became a client of this company. In fact, I brought her here when she needed someone to do her accounts. We haven't seen each other in 2 weeks, so if you terminate my contract, I will consider it wrongful termination and act accordingly. One more thing. The laptop and phone are my personal property. I can show you the receipts. They're staying with me." Now it was Dirksen's turn to stammer. He hadn't expected Harry to respond. The whole thing with Harry's ex-wife had made him think Harry was a cocky guy. This time he stammered, "Those items contain confidential information, so I demand their return." "What are you demanding? Check your contracts. This information is confidential and is kept between the account holder and the account manager of this company." "I am the account manager. That's obvious. All the accounts I handle have my signature on them, not yours. What do we do now?" The lawyer, clearly hurt in his pride, said, "Your contract will be terminated immediately. The reason is your friendly relationship with clients. You will receive written confirmation when you leave. I will need a list of the accounts you manage so we can inform their owners that they will soon have a new manager. I will also confiscate your laptop and phone." Harry grinned grimly. "Good luck with everything. You'll be hearing from my lawyer soon." Several months later, Harry left the court with a grim face, even though everything had gone exactly as he had predicted. The company had to pay Harry the full amount for the remainder of his contract, including bonuses calculated on average over the last 3 years. In short, given his lifestyle, he no longer needed to work. To make matters worse for the company, several clients asked Harry to continue working with them and transferred their accounts from Harry's company. The judge was unmoved by Mrs. Herwire and Mr. Dirkson's complaints that Harry had stolen the accounts. Leaving the courthouse, Harry called Annika and Bjorn to invite them to celebrate with him that evening. But first, he headed home. He needed to take a bath. His house was finally finished and had everything he had ever dreamed of. A library, a large kitchen, a garage, and two separate guest rooms next to the master bedroom. At the back, he had built an extension with a gym and a training pool. The pool was only 2.5 meters wide, 8 meters long, and 1.6 meters deep, but Harry had installed jets in it to create the effect of a fast-flowing river. Since then, Harry had used the pool every day. Physically, Harry was in great shape. Swimming, running for cardiovascular training, and Krav Maga for strength and endurance had made him that way. But psychologically, he was slowly drowning. Soon, he bought himself an old 1968 BMW RR69S. It still stood untouched in his garage. Harry couldn't find the energy to work on it. Outwardly, with clients and children, he behaved as usual. However, inside, he felt insecure and depressed and decided that he would never enter into a relationship again. Trust had been lost, and in the end, it was too painful. Annika and Bjorn agreed to meet early at a restaurant, which coincidentally was the same restaurant where Evelina had run away from Harry. They were both very worried about Harry and couldn't find a way to get him out of his depression. He refused psychological help. He refused to leave the house, politely rejecting all women who showed interest in him. The brother and sister discussed the situation, but it seemed they were getting nowhere. During their conversation, they noticed that Evelina had entered the restaurant accompanied by a man, but before they could say anything to her, Inga suddenly appeared at their table. Annika looked at Inga and asked her mother loudly and angrily, "What are you doing here?" Inga replied, "I want to talk to you. This charade has gone on long enough. I am your mother." Bjorn stood up and looked his mother in the eyes. "After what you did to my father, I no longer have a mother. You practically destroyed my father, and neither Annika nor I will tolerate it. You don't belong here, and we don't want you here. My father would never take you back after what you did to him. And I seriously suspect that you were responsible for him getting fired from the company. So in your words, kindly leave us alone." Ignoring her mother, Annika took out her cell phone, dialed a number, and said, "Dad, we're coming over. We'll bring something with us. What would you like?" "Why?" Harry asked in surprise. "Oh, this restaurant is full of parasites." Harry's children headed for the exit, but saw a man, apparently Evelina's companion, suddenly leave her and intercept them as they stepped outside. "Hello," he said. "Let me introduce myself. I'm Jake Geethart, Evelina's brother. It seems this schemer has misled my sister about your father. Can we meet sometime to discuss this?" Annika was surprised by his admission and offer, but she quickly gathered her wits. This was it, our chance. At least she hoped it was. She quickly handed Jake her business card, writing her personal number on the back, then smiled at Evelina across the room to show she held no ill will. To Jake, she said, "Please call me as soon as you can. My father is living in seclusion now, and we can't get him to relax. As you saw, my mother can't do anything to help." Jake nodded and turned to his sister, leading her back to their table. Evelina, sensing alarm, asked her brother, "What are you doing? That man wants nothing to do with me." Jake replied, "Time will tell. And you haven't been behaving yourself since you ran away from that troublemaker. I suspect you still have feelings for him. Take a chance. I'll call—" He looked at the card and realized he didn't even know the girl's name. "Annika, tomorrow, early in the morning, to settle everything. We have to act now, or we'll miss our chance." The next morning at 8:30, Annika's phone rang. She saw an unfamiliar number. "Anna van der Goes, good morning." "Anna, it's Jake. We met yesterday. Good morning. I hope it's not too early, but I don't want to give Evelyn time to cool off. I'm sure she still has warm feelings for your father. When can we meet?" "No, Jake, you're not too early. Actually, I was hoping you'd call sooner. My father is sinking into depression. He's trying to hide it, but we can see him breaking down. We're desperate. You said Evelina still has feelings for my father?" "Oh yes, of course. When we meet, or rather she, will tell you all about it. My sister has been in a funk ever since she ran away from that restaurant. I've already booked a table there twice, hoping to meet you, because I didn't know how you or Harry would react if I managed to get in touch with you somehow. Third time lucky, right? Can you come over to my place, say around 5? I know it's early, but I think we have a lot to talk about and find common ground. I'll call my brother and see if he's free at that time. I hope we can work something out that will make two people happy. By the way, you must love your sister very much to go to such lengths. Yes, I love her very much. She's always taken care of me. Now is a good time to repay her for her kindness. See you at 5. If your brother can't make it at 5, ask him to come as early as possible. I'll send you the address and prepare dinner. Okay, we'll bring the drinks, wine or beer. What do you prefer? Can we have both? I like beer, and Evelina likes wine. Consider it settled. Have a good day. See you at 5. A few minutes after 5, 5 people were sitting at the huge kitchen table. The fifth was Jake, with his wife Lisa. She poured the wine while Jake set the table. A large platter with turnips, carrots, potatoes, and chicken legs baked in the oven with rosemary, lemon, and garlic. Freshly baked bread to dip in the gravy. And, as an appetizer, spicy chicken broth. After looking at all the dishes, Annika asked politely, "Shall we talk during the meal or wait until after?" "No," Jake replied. "Let's start now." Annika looked at Evelina and asked, "Evelina, can you tell me what your mother said about my father?" Evelina blushed. "I'll try. Keep in mind that she described my ex-husband in great detail. That's why I panicked." She took a deep breath and said, "I'm going to the bathroom. Your mom was already there. She asked if Harry had told me why he got divorced. When I said no, she said she would tell me because I should be warned. She said that he had verbally and psychologically abused her for months. And on the first day of their vacation, when she went out for a walk, he went out drinking with strangers. When she returned, he was kissing another woman and told her to get out because he was having fun." Annika and Bjorn looked meaningfully at Evelina and shook their heads before Bjorn replied, "That story is almost true except for one detail. It wasn't my father who did that to my mother. It was the other way around. What's more, my mother had my father fired on false charges. He was having an affair with a client, with you, Evelina, and they had a photo of you and my father on the day she had that indecent conversation with you." Evelina turned pale as a sheet when Bjorn finished speaking. When he fell silent, she asked in a quiet voice, "Is Harry really the way he seems? Did I leave a decent man because I was foolish enough to believe the lies your mother told me?" Evelina began to sob uncontrollably. Annika walked around the table and whispered softly in her ear, "Maybe there's still a way to make you happy together?" She looked around the table and asked, "What should we do?" Lisa replied, "Whatever we try to do, your mother will always get in the way. Her current mental state will always cause problems, so I think the two of you need to deal with that first. I can think of something, but you won't like it, so it's up to you." Bjorn replied immediately, "Go ahead. We're ready for anything." Lisa continued, "You have to bring your mother back into your lives." Both of Harry's children looked sharply at Lisa and wanted to say something, but she raised her hand. "Listen to me," she said. "To do that, she has to agree to a few things. First, she has to leave your father alone and stop interfering in his life. And second, she has to see a psychiatrist to deal with her problems. There's something wrong with her." Annika and Bjorn looked at each other and then slowly nodded. "That's a good idea. We can do that, right, brother?" Annika said. "So what are we going to do about Dad?" Harry lay in the pool and swam until he was exhausted. He had had a bad day and was venting his frustration through his body. At 47, he looked very fit. Swimming and Krav Maga had done wonders for his body. He had to buy new clothes because his old ones no longer fit him. His shoulders had broadened and muscles had appeared on his arms and back. His stomach was flat and firm, and his buttocks were toned. He had never been a homebody, but now women, and even some men, were starting to notice him. That's why he was so upset that evening. Harry was rich, lived in a beautiful house, and generally looked like a healthy member of the human race. The only problem was that after 2 failed relationships, he no longer felt attracted to new ones. Women, especially women, began to flirt with him, and he had to politely turn them down. That day, one of his clients refused to take no for an answer and threatened to give his portfolio to another company. Harry advised her to go back to her old company and rejected her offer, much to her dismay. Finally, when his muscles ached with fatigue and his lungs burned in his chest, he staggered up the stairs and climbed out of the water. He was just drying himself off when the doorbell rang. Harry put on shorts and a t-shirt, checked the security camera, and opened the door angrily. Ing, how honest do I have to be? Whatever you want, the answer is no. Now get out of here! Harry slammed the door and turned on the security system, switching it to record mode. If it came to a fight, he wanted to get a restraining order, and for that he needed evidence. As she approached Harry's house, Ing felt good. Earlier that day, she had finally received her health certificate. A year ago, her escapades had been rewarded with a very persistent case of syphilis. Tonight, she planned to make amends to Harry. Inga hadn't seen Harry in months. She had tried everything she could to get him to talk to her, but since he didn't respond to her emails and text messages or return her calls, she ruined his date and cost him his job. Now she had come to offer him help because without a job, he would have no means of support. Wouldn't he? Inga had put on a dress that used to drive Harry crazy. She had also done her hair and spent an hour in front of the mirror at her dressing table. Confident in herself and her plan, she rang the doorbell. The door opened quickly, and she looked up to see her ex-husband. This was not the man she had known before. This man had broad shoulders and a toned physique. Only the hunter's face reminded her of the old days, and Harry's reaction caught her off guard, making her want more. Harry responded with the same words that had destroyed her marriage, then slammed the door in her face. Inga felt tears threatening to ruin her makeup again. Immediately after meeting his ex-wife, Harry's phone rang. What? Dad? Oh, sorry, daughter, I thought it was your mom. She was just at the door. What did she want? I don't know. I didn't let her say a word. I yelled at her to leave and slammed the door in her face. So she hasn't decided to reconcile yet? Daughter, when your mother tore my soul apart for months, tearing it to pieces and openly cheating on me, a void formed in my soul. Somehow that void has been filled again, but something in me is gone. My love for your mother has practically evaporated, and part of my compassion for other people is gone too. There is no place for Inga in my life anymore. Understand that she is your mother and you only have one. Don't do anything you'll regret later, like letting her live with you. What about Evelina? I don't know. I tried calling her for several days in a row, but to no avail. I decided that after talking to your mother, she didn't want to see me anymore, so I blocked her number and deleted it. But I still see her in my dreams and wake up with pain and longing for her. Dad? Yes. When will you come out of your shell? I don't know, my dear daughter. I know I'm in a bad place psychologically. I'm not ready to seek help from a psychiatrist yet. Besides, I'm driven crazy by women who think I'm easy prey or in need of their help. One last question. Can we come over tomorrow? Maybe for dinner? Sure, at 6 o'clock. Use your keys. I'll go swimming from 4 to 5 and have dinner ready. I like that idea. Okay, Dad. See you tomorrow. I love you. They left, leaving Annika ecstatic. She immediately called Evelina. Eva, be at my place at 3:30 tomorrow. We have to be at Dad's between 4 and 5. I tricked him by saying that Bjorn and I were coming over for dinner. Start thinking about what to wear, Annika said cheerfully. Evelina was also happy on the other end of the line and replied, Thanks, Annika. See you soon. In fact, Evelina had already decided what she would wear if the opportunity arose. She would wear the same outfit she had worn that morning when she opened the door to Harry and went looking for the house. She smiled, remembering the impression she had made on him. Inga had tried many times to contact her children. She had written letters. She had even knocked on their doors, but her number was blocked. Her letters went unanswered, and the doors remained closed. In desperation, she turned to Annika again. Mom, why are you calling? You know we don't want to talk to you, right? I needed to hear your voice. You're my daughter, and I miss you both very much. Please tell me what I need to do to see you again. I already tried to help your father when he was fired, but he wouldn't let me. Dad doesn't need any help, especially from you. Things have been going very well for him lately. She paused, sensing that the moment was right to continue with their plan. Bjorn and I were talking about you recently, and Dad even told us that we only have one mom, and that we'll regret it if we keep ignoring you. So Bjorn and I came up with 2 things you have to do before we'll start talking to you again. Are you listening? Yes, anything. I'll do anything. Okay, let's start. First, you're going to leave Dad alone. Stop ruining his life. We both know who scared his girlfriend away and who fired Dad because of that photo. The best part is that they did such a bad job that Dad left with a lot of money and took a bunch of clients with him. So leave Dad alone. Inga was shocked by what she heard, but she nodded, even though Annika was far away. Okay, I promise. What's second? You're going to see a psychiatrist to help you deal with your obsession with Dad. Otherwise, in 6 months, you'll start all over again. Accept it. He's never coming back, never. Well, I don't know. I'll go with you. It's part of the deal. What about Björn? Will he come with me too? I'm speaking for both of us. We agreed this in advance and knew you would call me. Then, I'll agree to both conditions. Good. Let us know when your first appointment is. I'll go with you as promised, and I'll leave Dad alone. Inga was delighted. Annika and Bjorn wanted to talk to her again. She didn't like the conditions, but she would be able to get around them in time. She left Harry alone for a while. She would try again when the family was together again. The next day, Annika and Evelina entered Harry's house, and Annika whispered to Evelina, "You look amazing." Evelina smiled nervously. In response, she whispered, "What am I going to do now? I'm so nervous I feel like I'm going to throw up." "Better surprise him in the pool. I'm sure he won't run away from you there," Annika said. Evelina threw her coat on the sofa and looked around. The asceticism of that house spoke volumes about Harry's state of mind. Summoning all her courage, she walked through the gym to the pool. There she saw Harry swimming, making long, powerful strokes with his arms. She noticed how he had changed. His shoulders and back muscles were tense with effort, but his head was constantly in the water. He would never see her standing there. She took a deep breath and made up her mind. Evelina didn't notice that the jets in the pool were running at almost full power. The current swept her under the water, and a few seconds later she collided with Harry. He instinctively grabbed her, and a second later the current swept them to the other end of the pool. There, Harry pressed the emergency stop button and the current weakened. But Evelina clung to him like a lifeline. Harry looked up from the button and saw Evelina's frightened face. "Evelina, what are you doing?" he began. But Evelina began to choke with fear and panic. I was all that came out of her mouth. Evelina screamed, "Don't send me away, please. Don't kick me out. Let me explain first." Harry was completely stunned. Very surprised, he replied, "I won't kick you out. But you have to explain something to me." "First of all, how did you get here?" Annika shouted from the gym door. "Blame me, Dad. There's coffee and tea in the kitchen, so behave yourself." "Evelina, are you coming?" Evelina smiled and replied, "I'm coming, when I come to my senses. But that might take a while." When Harry and Evelina entered the kitchen, they were met with Annika's questioning gaze. Harry grinned and explained, "She jumped into the pool." Evelina added, "He didn't want to look up, so I had to. But I'll never do that again." The three of them sat down at the table. Annika said quietly to her father, "Dad, I hope you're not mad at us for interfering in your life, but you're so unhappy that we had to do something, and then we met Jake and Evelina." Harry frowned. "Jake?" Evelina quickly interrupted him. "My younger brother." "Oh," Harry replied. I don't think I'll try to understand anything else. I'll explain everything if you promise not to get angry and let me finish the story, because it's quite long. Annika already knows everything. That's why I came here. I understand everything, and I trust my children unconditionally. So you can explain everything, otherwise you would have been kicked out already." Evelina sighed deeply, looked appraisingly at Annika, and asked, "Shall I begin? The sooner we finish, the better." Harry just nodded. "When I met you, Harry, it was my first date after a failed marriage, and you saw how that ended. Another disaster. I was married to a violent, controlling maniac. It started out like a fairy tale, but soon the abuse began, first verbal, then physical. You saw my reaction in the pool. I was in a state of panic. That's because my ex constantly tried to use his version of water torture on me." She noticed his gaze and nodded. "The police?" "Where we lived, they were very conservative, and women had to know their place. Don't expect help if you don't have bruises. I could never prove he was violent until I went too far and he sent me to the hospital. Now he's in prison. And then I met you. Harry, I always liked you. In school, you did your own thing and didn't put up with nonsense from the jocks. You ignored the mean girls even when they threw themselves at you. They only did it because you ignored them. They couldn't handle it. You also helped anyone who asked you for help with math, chemistry, and physics. Even though we had only known each other for a few hours, I felt like I had known you for years and was in love with you. When you asked me if I wanted to be your girlfriend, I felt something I had never felt before. You didn't rush me. You gave me time. About a month later, you took me to the restaurant where I had met Annika and Bjorn. Your ex-wife showed up and announced with a smirk that I was your fifth girlfriend, as if you had been dating all of us at the same time. My heart sank. When she told me these lies about you, she described my ex-husband in great detail. I panicked, and the only thing I could do was run away as fast as I could. It took me several days to calm down. I was so scared that I ignored all your requests to talk, returned your letter, and didn't open it when you were at my door. A week later, I saw Jake and told him everything that had happened. He, in turn, said that it was probably all lies from a jealous ex-wife. After talking to my brother and with his support, I tried unsuccessfully to contact you. My calls didn't go through. Harry nodded, remembering how he had blocked her number and deleted it from his contact list. I didn't dare knock on your door, afraid you would reject me, she said, lowering her head. Harry asked, how did you find the courage to come here today? Jake, Bjorn, and I pushed you to do it, Dad, Annika replied, not letting Evelina get a word in. And you, Evie, why did you decide to jump into my pool naked? Evelyn's heart ached. He called her Evi. That was his pet name for her. She replied, I don't know. You had your head underwater, and I wanted to get your attention so badly that I overcame my fear of water. When I was swept away by the current, I was so scared, Harry, but you saved me. Her eyes misted over, and she struggled to hold back tears as she continued. I'm sorry I ran away without hearing your side of the story. I just don't know what came over me. And I'm sorry I was so cowardly and came here. Can you forgive me? Harry looked at Annika, then at Evelina. He whispered, Evi, I already told Annika that I still see you in my dreams, and every time I wake up it hurts. I don't have a choice, do I? Do you know Leonard Cohen's song, Avalanche? It starts, I got caught in an avalanche. It covered my soul. You became that avalanche, my avalanche, twice. The first time was during our first dinner, and the second time was when you kissed me. Evelyn opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again, but no sound came out, and tears overwhelmed her. Harry knelt down beside her, cupped her face in his hands, and made Evelyn look him in the eyes. Evi, look at me. Do you really want to be with a broken man like me? I'd gladly take you back, but we both have issues we need to work on. Maybe we should see a therapist together and we'll figure it out? Finally, Evelina found the strength to say, does that mean you'll take me back? No. For a second, Evelina turned pale as a sheet, but Harry quickly continued, wiping a tear from her cheek. I didn't ask you to leave, did I? You left on your own. Actually, I should be asking you if you want me to come back. Evelina couldn't believe her luck and squeaked, yes, yes, of course. I was so stupid to let myself be played like that. Can I stay here tonight? At that moment, Annika intervened. Dad, Evelina, I'm sorry to interrupt, but now that everything has turned out well, I want to tell you something about Evelina. Give me a moment, Cupid's daughter. Annika took a deep breath and began. Bjorn and I have decided to bring Mom back into our lives on two conditions. First, she will leave you alone and stop interfering in your life. Second, she will go to counseling. I will go with her. Okay, Harry said firmly. It's very wise of you to let your mother come home. I'm very happy. If it helps ease the tension in the future, I promise to behave myself when I see her. Annika and Evelina looked up, wanting to say something. Harry continued before they could speak. That doesn't mean I'll invite her to dinner, but someday you or your brother might want to have a family dinner or something like that. Thanks to me, you won't have to choose between your parents. Of course I can't speak for your mother. Annika sighed. Oh, Daddy, you're so sweet, thank you, and kissed him on the cheek. Now I'll leave you two alone. Evelina, are you coming? She smiled. Evelina, still unsure, looked at Harry. Should I? Harry smiled. Not with me. I have a spare bedroom. He laughed loudly and said, but whichever room you choose, you'll find me in bed. Evelina blushed and smiled at the same time. Before going to bed, they approached the bed and got down to business. Harry's breathing gradually returned to normal, and he was the first to find his voice. Will you marry me? She sat up abruptly and looked at Harry with wide eyes. What did you just say? Harry repeated. Will you marry me? Evelina was silent for a long time, then finally asked, Do you really want to marry me? You shouldn't. I'm yours, with or without a ring, and I solemnly promise you that I will be with you in joy and in sorrow, and that I will leave all other men. Harry replied, That's enough for me. I promise the same, only without the men. Let there be other women for me. Consider us married. Now, do you want to move in with us, or shall I move in with you? Evelyn laughed happily and told Harry she would collect her things from her apartment. I don't have much, she said. I think I'm still in a state of escapism after the divorce. Dear Evie, he can't hurt you anymore. The next morning, Harry called Annika and Bjorn to tell them the good news, and after breakfast he and Evelina went to get her things. A year later, Harry finished swimming and watched Evelina slowly paddling in the pool. It had taken a long time, but she had overcome her fear of water. Harry hummed to himself as he returned to the office. He made a small detour to the mailbox, took out the mail, and threw it on the table. Coffee first, he thought. He made 2 cups, put them on the table, and had just started looking through the mail when Evelina came in, still a little unsteady from the night before. She sat down and took the cup he offered her. Looking through the stack, she noticed, There's one letter without a stamp addressed to you, not your company. Harry picked up the letter and immediately recognized the handwriting. He groaned loudly. No, not this. She promised. Evelina asked, Harry, look at me, please. Harry looked up and Evelina continued, I know that Inga wrote this letter. We talked about it when we met at Bjorn's. All 3 of us talked about it. Inga's psychologist quickly dismissed her idea of getting you back, but he had a hard time putting Inga back together. When Inga realized what she had gone through, she broke down and fell into depression. She's recovering now, and this letter is part of her redemption. Please read it. It will help you understand the situation. Harry growled, I don't want a relationship with that woman. I want to be left alone. Evelina stood up, took the coffee from Harry's hands, and sat down on his desk opposite him. No, you do, Harry, or she'll keep hounding you. Read the letter. The last word sounded convincing. Harry knew he shouldn't take offense when Evelina spoke to him like that. Nodding slowly, he agreed and opened the envelope. Dear Harry, yes, you are still dear Harry to me, even though I know you think otherwise, and I still love you. I also know from our children that you have gone so far in your hatred for me that you don't care about me anymore. When they told me this, I was stunned. But enough about me. In this letter, I want to tell you that I'm sorry. When you left, you said you were so angry with me that there were no words to describe it. Now I have no words to tell you how sorry I am. I destroyed our marriage. I tried to ruin your life at least 3 times and pushed you away so much that you stopped caring about me at all. Annika and Bjorn made me go to a psychologist, and she was cruel. She said I was jealous, selfish, and thought I was entitled to everything. I hurt you terribly because of that. I'm not going to ask for forgiveness, not because I don't want you to forgive me, but because I don't think I deserve it. The children told me that you would be polite to me. You can do that by simply ignoring me. I have been seeing several men. Now I realize that I left because someone told me that conflict is necessary for an interesting marriage. I have conflict, but I don't have a marriage. I ask only one thing. Please let me back into your life for the sake of our children. I won't stalk you or intrude on your life, but please, when we meet, will you talk to me? Even if it's just to say hello? I really want to hear from you, even if it's just a few words. With remorse and love, Inga Harry looked at Evelina's expectant face and sighed slowly. I'll think about it. Don't expect an answer anytime soon. I don't like people prying into my feelings. Evelina wanted to say something, but stopped when she saw that Harry's face was expressionless and his eyes were like stones, completely devoid of emotion. She nodded silently, realizing she needed to give him time. Harry went to the garage to tinker with his second BMW. It was a 1949 R24, a single-cylinder motorcycle with a displacement of 250 cubic centimeters, 1525 cubic inches. At the workbench, he began to disassemble the carburetor, but he couldn't concentrate. When it was time for dinner, Harry still hadn't said a word, and Evelina began to worry. Honey, she said, how can I help? Do you want to talk about it? Harry replied harshly, "Can you cancel that letter? I wish I'd never read it. I feel like I'm being blackmailed through my children and my children." Evelyn was stunned by Harry's harsh response. She said, in a soothing tone, "That's not true. No one is trying to force you to do this." Harry stood up and began pacing around the room. "That's not true. You talked about this letter with Annika, Bjorn, and my ex-wife, and you pressured me into reading it. What else can you call it? Persuasion, perhaps? I promise I'll think about it seriously in time. But right now, I feel like a complete idiot again. Maybe I'll go away for a while to get my thoughts in order." Evelina turned pale when she heard Harry's words. She had expected a reaction, perhaps even a strong one, but none of the three had anticipated such fury. Harry said, "Tomorrow, I'm taking a van and going to Limburg for a while. I'll book a spot at the campground." The next morning, Harry drove south, grumbling to himself. "Damn, just when I thought I could leave that woman, another damn rabbit popped out of her hat. And to top it all off, I booked the only available campsite in the area, the very one where it all started." At that moment, the Furman's house was in turmoil. Evelina called Annika, but she didn't answer. Finally, Evelina got through to Bjorn. "Hi, Evelina, is everything okay? Something's wrong because you usually call me, not Annika." "Bjorn, Harry read Inga's letter yesterday. It's bad, really bad. He said he feels blackmailed and didn't say a word except 'see you later' when he left for Limburg with the caravan this morning." She cried, "Now I don't know what to do." "Damn," said Bjorn. "We couldn't have seen this coming. You know what? I'll come over as soon as I get in touch with Annika. I'll break the bad news to Mom. All we can do is wait and hope that Dad calms down. Pull yourself together and stay calm. Dad will come back to you. Don't be afraid." However, despite his assurances, Evelina was very afraid. In the afternoon, Harry arrived at the campsite. He was shown a beautiful spot with an endless view of the sprawling landscape. He quickly set up camp and then went in search of dinner. After dinner, he went to explore the campground and noticed a familiar face at a nearby site. Given the circumstances, the place and the face connected, and Harry recognized the real estate agent who was one of the men who had been with his ex-wife and infected her with syphilis. Harry's heart began to race, and he felt a rush of adrenaline as he anticipated destruction. Fortunately, the man walked away, unaware of the danger lurking a few meters away, and Harry, trembling with rage, headed for his van. There he sat for a long time, motionless, lost in thought, before finally going to bed. After a restless night, he got up the next morning to go to the manager's office and chat. When Harry began to question him, the manager said, "I'm very sorry. I know these people are no good. I've heard rumors, but until I have proof, I can't refute them. I've already installed a surveillance camera, but the ladies always enter their van voluntarily." "What if I provoke them?" Harry asked. The manager smiled and replied, "I don't know anything, as Manuel always said in the TV series Faulty Towers." Harry laughed. "Yes, you're from Barcelona," he said, referring to Manuel's origins. "But we understand each other." Leaving the office, Harry began to think about a plan. "Good morning, gentlemen," Harry smiled. He hoped the agent wouldn't recognize him. He hadn't shaved in several days, and this man had met him more than 3 years ago. Harry had changed a lot lately. The man looked up. His eyes were red and had dark circles under them. He asked hoarsely, "What do you want?" Harry replied with an innocent expression, "Me? Nothing, but since we're neighbors, I came to offer you some coffee. You look like you could use a cup." The man looked at Harry suspiciously. "Why would I want that?" Pretending to be stupid, Harry replied, "It looks like you had a good time last night, and I'm here all alone." Harry left the rest of the sentence unsaid. After thinking for a moment, the man said, "Call me Abe and bring something strong. Tonight is ladies' night." "Okay," said Harry. "What time?" "Around 3, Abe replied. "My buddy's coming too." Harry went for a walk and, as Abe eloquently put it, a drink. He bought a bottle of brandy, whiskey, and a bottle of young Dutch gin that looked like water. Harry replaced most of the gin with water. He was taking a risk, but most people don't drink gin anyway. At 3 o'clock, Harry went to the phone with the recording mode turned on and placed it face down on the table. He was surprised to see Abe and his friend in the company of a young woman. "Hi, I'm Bridget." Harry sat down and whispered to Abe, "A little milky, isn't she?" Abe replied, "Oh, she's 19, but who cares? You'd be surprised how easy it is to get a woman into bed. A few years ago, we had one who told her husband to back off because she was having a good time. She just walked in. Can you believe that? Then, when he got fired, we had a great time with her. She got really drunk, but we left early in the morning. We didn't want him to find us. Too bad she gave us a nasty venereal disease. Harry couldn't believe his ears. He asked, "What if the woman doesn't want to?" Abe smiled insincerely. "Oh, that's easy to solve, but I like it better when they want it and take the initiative." Harry noticed that Abe was very delicately starting to pour alcohol for Bridget. It started innocently enough with a glass of white wine, but within an hour he had persuaded her to drink a cocktail. After dinner, the woman had drunk more than enough but still rejected the advances of the two men. Abe and his friend also had too much to drink and became more aggressive. Finally, Abe said, "It's time to call in Daddy's helpers." Harry made sure the security camera was pointed at the spot and his phone was recording on the table nearby. He said, "You know, I don't like this. Cool down? What are you going to do?" Abe grinned. Harry, deciding to escalate the situation, looked at Abe and muttered, "Which one of you needs to be treated for syphilis?" "Oh no, of course, both of you." Abe's friend blushed. "How do you know that?" he exclaimed. "Because my ex-wife treated you for it, you jerk. And now that I know how you've been behaving, I'm going to put a stop to it." Harry waited for more, but before he could react, Abe lunged at him, a knife suddenly appearing in his hands. Harry staggered, slid down onto a chair and collapsed. "Evelyn?" "Yes, Bjorn. What's wrong?" "Dad, he's in the hospital. He's been cut and the police want to arrest him for assault." "What? What happened? Is Harry okay?" "I don't know. I know he needs surgery. That's why they called me. As soon as Annika arrives, we'll pick you up and go to him." "Yes, please. I'll pack his things." It was quiet in the car for a long time. Bjorn was driving just below the speed limit, which could have resulted in losing his license. Evelina was quietly sobbing. "We shouldn't have given him that letter. After all, it's because of him that he ended up there," Annika said quietly. Bjorn concentrated on the road but couldn't hold back. "Dad didn't come here to fight. Thanks to Krav Maga, he learned to stay away from them. I think he had to defend himself, otherwise they would have attacked him. I've seen what he's capable of. I even feel sorry for that man." 2 hours later, they arrived at the hospital. They were met by a police officer. "Good evening, I'm Officer Janssens. May I ask who you are?" After introducing himself, Janssens continued, "Mr. van der Goes is no longer a suspect. According to CCTV footage and phone records, it was clear self-defense. It appears he also saved a woman from being raped. 2 men attacked him without warning. I must say, Mr. van der Goes showed himself in the best light. Those two will regret messing with him." "Two?" Evelina asked. Annika interrupted him. "How is he? Is he in danger?" Janssens replied that he didn't know, and that they should ask the doctor. Finally, after several attempts to ask for directions, they found the right ward. There, a nurse told them that Harry was in surgery. His condition was serious, but he should survive, although he had lost a lot of blood. No one said there were no guarantees, but everyone understood. She told the worried trio that they could wait there or get a guest room across the street, promising that they would be called as soon as Harry came out of surgery. Annika, Bjorn, and Evelina crossed the street in the middle of the night. There, the waiting began. Beep, 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 beep. "What's that noise? Shut up!" "Can't you see I have a headache?" thought Harry. He wanted to say something but couldn't move his tongue, and his lips felt like they were glued together. He heard a deep voice. "Ah, there he is again. Mr. van der Goes. If you can hear me, raise your right hand." Harry, rather hesitantly, did as he was asked. "Very good," said the man. "Before I explain anything, let me introduce myself. My name is Derriter, Dr. Derriter, and I will help you get back on your feet. You have just escaped death, so you'd better calm down a little. First, I will free you from some restraints and moisten your mouth. Then you will see some very agitated people, but I cannot emphasize enough that you need to calm down." When he and the nurse had finished talking on the phone, the doctor opened the door and gestured for Evelina, Annika, and Bjorn to come in. Looking at Evelina, he muttered something like "lucky girl," and left. Evelina was in tears when she finally asked, "What happened?" "I shouldn't have given you that letter." Harry smiled and whispered, "No. It cost me dearly, but now I have a clear answer to Inga's letter." He closed his eyes and whispered, I'm so tired. A few seconds later, he fell asleep again. After a short visit, Evelina and the children went to see Dr. De Ritter. But the knife hit a major vein. Fortunately, we got there in time. As a result, we only had to reinforce the wound. The wound itself has been stitched up, and it will be painful and numb for a while, but he will be able to go home next week. Keep in mind that he will have to wait at least 3 months before he can resume any martial arts training. Bjorn asked, "How do you know my father practices Krav Maga?" Hmm, Krav Maga, that explains a lot. Officially, I'm not allowed to tell you, but you should have seen those two guys. One of them will need a cane for the rest of his life, and the other is currently feeding through a tube. A week later, Harry was sitting in an armchair in his house with Inga's letter in his hands. When he said sadly, "When I first read the letter and went on the trip, I was inclined to give up and bring Inga back into my life," 3 pairs of eyes turned to him. The men from the campsite turned out to be the same ones Inga had been involved with almost 4 years earlier. When I gained their trust, they claimed, without knowing who I was, that she had infected them with a sexually transmitted disease, not the other way around. They also said that she had gotten drunk after their encounters, not before. I can only conclude that she was already cheating on me before I dumped her. She will never come back into my life. However, I will treat her as a stranger because I don't want my children to have to choose which parent to invite over. And I have to tell her that, so please don't interfere. Promise me?" 2 weeks later, Dr. Derriter allowed Harry to resume training. For the first few weeks, he trained under the supervision of a physical therapist. After 6 weeks of running and wrestling, he wondered what to do about his ex-wife. Unable to find a suitable solution, he decided to improvise and see what would happen. A week later, Harry was waiting at the same restaurant where Inga had tried to ruin his budding relationship with Evelina. Evelina and Harry were now deeply in love with each other. Evelina had gotten rid of her hang-ups during their joint psychotherapy sessions, and Harry was gradually overcoming his distrust. He saw Inga enter the restaurant and was surprised to see that she had guests with her. He stood up and waved when the two women approached his table. "Inga, I see you brought company for a private conversation." Inga wanted to cry. This was not the reception she had hoped for. She and her counselor had discussed several scenarios, and this beginning was what she feared most. It was one of the worst-case scenarios. Inga knew it would not be easy, so she brought her counselor with her, hoping he could defuse a potentially explosive situation. "Harry, can I introduce you to my consultant? She's here to support me." "Oh, I see. Still trying to manipulate me." Harry turned to the other woman. "Maybe I should have brought my consultant with me too. You see, I needed a consultant after this woman broke up with me." He turned back to Inga. "I promised you dinner, and your support is welcome too. Let's sit down." Inga was nervous, but Harry insisted, "Food first, then we'll talk." She also noticed that Harry ate very little and hardly drank any wine, but he seemed completely calm. Finally, after dessert, Harry asked, "Inga, what do you want from me?" Inga almost choked on her ice cream. The consultant jumped up. "Sir, you are being rude. Inga is trying to resolve the difficulties between you. This is not helping." "Problems? You have no idea how much pain she has caused me." "Inga, you know I was in the hospital, but do you know why?" Inga was still confused by Harry's cold, almost hostile attitude toward her and her counselor. She replied quietly, "In the hospital, yes, but I don't know why. The children didn't tell me anything." Harry looked at both women and asked, "You're wondering why?" Both women nodded affirmatively. "Inga, after I read your letter, I had to think long and hard. And I had to do that only because the people I love, who I'm sure love me, asked me to do what you begged me to do. So I took a van and headed south. When I got there, I started looking for a place to camp. As luck would have it, the only place available was where you had created hell for me. Apparently, fate decreed that I would meet the two men with whom you had been entertaining yourself. I wanted revenge, so I tried to win their trust. I succeeded, and I must say with great success. They boasted about their past adventures. As Harry explained, the blood slowly drained from Inga's face. Even in her worst nightmares, she could not have imagined that Harry would ever meet these people. However, Harry continued relentlessly. They were willing to do anything to get this woman, so I stayed nearby, using CCTV cameras to record what was happening and my phone to record the sound. When I objected and insulted them, they started fighting. One of them had a knife. Here, Harry paused, took a sip from his glass, and looked Inga straight in the eye. I have part of that recording on my phone, and I'm going to show it to both of you. The female consultant intervened. I don't think that's necessary. Harry replied quickly, I'm sure you don't, but you're not my counselor, and I think it's absolutely necessary that the reason for my decision be clear beyond any doubt. He played the recording, and Inga trembled with excitement. It was the part she had hidden from everyone. Tears streamed down her cheeks as the recording exposed her lie. When the recording ended, Harry's eyes, unlike hers, were devoid of any emotion. His face was calm. These people only found out about me after the recording was made. I used it to provoke them into attacking me, but the information was provided voluntarily. So, ex-wife, I have come to the conclusion that in the months leading up to this incident, you were spoiling me and cheating on me with at least one man and possibly several. Not only did you constantly humiliate and insult me for almost 6 months, but you also completely broke your marriage vows. And even if I didn't think your grand finale at the camp was enough to make up my mind, it certainly helped. A heavy silence hung over the table. Harry said grimly, to paraphrase you, don't you see that I'm in good company now? So kindly get out. With that, Harry stood up, paid the bill, and went home to Evelyn, the woman he loved. The end. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel and watch the next video.